trackers, and then I have like 2 sentences I'm going to say to kick it off, and then we can jump into the next section.
Oh man, Incline was a success.
Oh, it happened already?
Oh yes, I thought it was in October, but it was in August. So we had Oh gosh, Incline was a success.
I missed it.
We had maybe 20 people, maybe 30 people here.
Oh, we were at Mount Rushmore. That's what it was.
You're at Rushmore. Yeah. That's right.
We were on a trip.
How was that?
Oh, it was so much fun. I got to tell you after this, we did like 80 miles of ATV trails, backcountry mountains, like 30 miles into the forest. It was really fun.
But we were on ATV.
Too.
Oh, a helicopter. Gosh.
Yeah.
I'm jealous.
We went into the caves, saw the monument, you know.
That's fun.
They did this amazing presentation on just being an American and like being proud of your country.
That's right.
And I was so proud of like my kids getting to see that, because I really want them to grow up to be proud to be an American.
That's right.
And be proud of the freedoms we have, because
no
one else in the world
don't take it for granted.
Exactly.
That's right.
And there's just this theme right now of people in this country who have never experienced anything hard, and it's just they want, and they don't know what it feels like to not have.
That's right.
You know, so I don't want my kids to grow up in that path and that mindset.
Yeah. The people who've always had do not understand how blessed we have it here, how great we have it here.
And I have always had, but I've learned from people like yourself who've grown up in parts of the world where you don't have, and that's opened my eyes and my mind to a lot of things.
Yeah, Kyle, I was born in Haiti.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask.
Yeah, I was born in the Caribbean, Haiti. Yes, and I've been here for over 30 years. But I've been, I always tell people a lot of things that we take here for granted. Now I say we because I consider myself an American. I've been here for so long, live longer here than in Haiti. But because I was raised there, I appreciate more being an American than most people. Yeah.
Right. And one of my best friends is from Cuba, communist Cuba, and the challenges of growing up there with limited supplies and so much control and lack of freedom. Hearing his story and juxtaposing it to what it's like to live here is really eye-opening. Yeah,
well, there was this guy on this podcast. He was talking about how China is great and how I forgot what podcast that was. And this other guy who was raised in Russia is telling him, there's no comparison, and he is arguing that China is a great country, and he would rather live in China than America.
He should go live there for 1 month and see.
Well, he says he lived there, and he's an older guy. He's an economist, of all things, and he's saying this Well,
I don't think that matches the general consensus.
Communist China is better than, and he was like in his 60s, and the guy who was arguing against him, mostly for capitalism, was from Russia, and he was raised in Russia, and he says there's no way you can compare these two systems. Anyway, are you ready, Chris?
I'm just not getting audio in my ears. Interesting.
Yeah, from the
We can hear it from up here, but I just want to make sure it's actually going through the stream.
Oh, okay. What he's saying he can hear it.
Oh, we're live on the stream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, test. You want to do a test for him?
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Testing over here too.
Okay.
Have we been live on streaming on YouTube?
Are we live?
Well, if we are, it's
we are?
not a surprise. We love freedom in America, so.
Okay, now we are live. Welcome everyone to the Incline Tracker podcast. We are here live at Inclination Cafe. We do this every week. We change the days. The days are supposed to, mostly we do them on Thursdays. And we are here today with a great athlete. But before we start, as we always do, we let people know that we are at Inclination Cafe at 124 Roxton Avenue at the bottom of the Incline. We do this podcast so we can highlight people who are doing great things on the Incline, also great things in the world, right? Because though Kyle has done he's done the Incline, but he's done a lot outside the Incline, and he's blind, so Trevor is going to intro him quickly. Other things we want to highlight is that we had Incline Well, we had Flinkline last week. It was fun, and I'm hoping we have another Flinkline. Flinkline is an event we put together, a dating event. Boys chase girls on the incline and come back here to drink kava.
How many people showed up?
We had about 20 to 30 people. It was
they
fun.
all guys and
there were guys. There were guys and girls. It was fun.
girls, okay.
Yeah, and I did some salsa. I taught him some salsa after.
You did salsa?
Yes, it was fun. So, and we have that, and hopefully we're gonna get Octocline also, where we're gonna encourage people to do as many incline as possible in October. And then, so those are the announcements I have. We have an audience here live with us. I'm hoping we get an audience on Facebook or YouTube. And Trevor, kick it off.
All right, Kyle. First off, we're very excited you're here, and I'm going to introduce you real quick. So Kyle Kuhn, he is a two-time Paralympian. He's an elite para-triathlete, a mountaineer, a trail runner, and an author. He's competed at the highest level of international sport. He's climbed some of the most famous mountains in the world, and he's completed numerous ultra-endurance challenges in his life. And by the way, he's been completely blind since childhood on top of all that. So we're very excited to talk about your journey today, Kyle. Thank you for joining and being here with us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's a real honor, and I love coming and doing things like this and supporting local businesses like Inclination Cafe. So I mean, it's just now going to have to be on my rotation of places to visit post time on the incline anytime I'm up here running.
Perfect. Well, now I think, Trevor, we're going to start as usual talking about childhood, right?
And you have a very interesting childhood where it's very non-traditional, because when we were talking yesterday, you described what your first 7 years of life was like.
Very traumatic, right?
Yeah. Can you walk us through what it was like for you?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed at a very, very young age. I was 10 months old when I was diagnosed with a rare form of eye cancer called retinoblastoma. And so it was a rare type of eye cancer that attacked both of my retinas. And unfortunately, my parents were able to see it in my eyes, and took me to the doctors. And initially, the diagnosis was not great. The first set of doctors they took me to wanted to remove my eyes immediately, but we eventually got connected with some specialists that said, no, we think we can preserve some sight for at least a little bit. And so I went through about 5-6 years of pretty intense cancer treatment, ranging from a whole bunch of different types of chemotherapy to radiation therapy to cryotherapy, thermotherapy, plaque therapy, and then my doctors later joked with me that they said, hey, once the medical we threw the medical textbook at you, and then once that failed, we started making stuff up.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I went through 5, 6, almost 7 years of various cancer treatments. Had my and eventually what happened was the treatment took such a toll on my eyes that my eyes were actually just left permanently damaged. And so in order to completely remove the cancer, had my left eye removed when I was 5 years old, and my right eye just before I turned 7.
So did you remember, were you able to see during that time?
Yeah, I had, I was, by the legal definition, I was legally blind or visually impaired. But I could see well enough to know colors, shapes. I could see well to ride. I could see well enough to ride a bike. Play basketball in my driveway, rollerblade, run around with my friends, do that kind of stuff. But eventually, that did go away.
And so, what about your parents? Do you have an idea? Like, I'm always curious. Like, do you remember what they looked like? Your friends, your family?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I remember at least what my mom and my dad and my sisters looked like back when I was 5, 6 years old. They tell me my dad is Mr. Salt and Pepper hair now, and I still think of my mom as my mom's clearly not aged a day since she was 29. So so that's I know that for an absolute fact. But yeah, I absolutely I have pretty good memories of what my friends and family looked like, at least back then. I mean, obviously we all change. I mean, look at my hair has gotten a whole lot thinner than it was when I was 7 years old. So clearly I've changed a bit.
So during that time, were you involved? Like, do you have anyone in your family involved in athleticism or anything that has to do with body building, endurance, any of that?
My family we were like athletic, but my dad played high school sports. My mom was a bit of an athlete in high school, but neither of them were like elite athletes by any stretch of the imagination. But my sisters played soccer and team sports and stuff growing up, but but it was really I got introduced to a gentleman named Eric Weinmeier shortly after I lost my sight. And
how old were you at this time?
I was well, let's see, I lost my right eye just before I turned 7, so I think I had it was a few months after I turned 7 years old, and Eric.
You met Eric.
And I met Eric, who's a totally he was totally blind, and he was an adventure athlete. At that time he had already climbed a handful of mountains. He was just an all-around adventure athlete, and it was just a really, it was mind-boggling to me that someone that was, like me, that couldn't see, was, doing these adventure athletics, running in the mountains, rock climbing, skiing, skydiving, all these really cool things that I couldn't, I couldn't wrap my mind around that. But yeah, Eric was coming through my hometown of Jacksonville, Florida. He was doing some speaking engagements, and happened to through some business connections, my dad was introduced to Eric's dad, and Eric's dad lived not too far from us, and so Eric's dad arranged for Eric and me to meet. And at this time, Eric was probably in his early 30s, so just a little bit younger than I am now. And we just sat down and we just chatted about life and blindness, and he told me about all these really cool things that he did, and I was just like, man, that just sounds so cool. And he challenged me that, hey, like, just because you're blind doesn't mean you have to sit around the house doing nothing. Go out and try some of these things. Like, you seem pretty interested in this rock climbing thing that I've been telling you about. Why don't you go try that? and so that's what we did. My parents, so we had some family friends that belonged to a rock climbing gym in Jacksonville, Florida, where I grew up, and they took me to the climbing gym, and I fell in love with it. And then my parents said, well, if Kyle's going to get into this, then we're all going to get into it. So my sisters joined in, and we all got actually into competitive rock climbing for several years. And so that was actually my first competitive sport was rock climbing.
And how many siblings do you have?
I have 3 sisters. So I have a sister that's 2 years older than me, Cassandra. I have a sister who is a year and a half younger than me, Kelsey. She and I are the 2 endurance junkies of our entire family. We're the 2 that do ultra running and trail running and all that kind of stuff these days. And then my littlest sister, Caitlin, is 10 years younger than me. Mm-hmm. So, but she's a dynamite skier, and she was a elite soccer player all the way up through her senior year of high school.
Do any of your other siblings have issues with vision or cancer?
No. I was just a little bit of an oddity in the family. So the type of cancer that I had was actually a non-hereditary form of cancer. So it was just a sporadic genetic mutation.
I see.
So very, very fortunate. Not to say that now that I have had it, like if I were to go on and have kids, I could potentially pass it on to them. But very fortunate that none of my other siblings had any issues there.
Yeah.
So, I'm curious.
I had a question on Eric before we lose that topic. So I don't know if you mentioned it, but Eric Weinmeier, when I was researching, one of the biggest notable achievements that he has had over his lifetime is he's climbed the highest peak on every continent,
That's right.
including Mount Everest, being completely blind. Had he done those achievements when you met him, or did he move on to do that after he had met you?
So I met Eric in 1999. So it was I think he had done like maybe 3 of the 7 summits at that point. I think he had done Denali in Alaska. He had done Kilimanjaro in Africa, and I think he had just done Aconcagua in South America when I met him. And then he went on to do Everest in 2001, so a couple of years after I met him, and then he wound up finishing up finishing up the 7 summits afterwards. So I met him kind of in the middle, just before he did Everest, and over the last almost 30 years now, he's still a good friend and mentor of mine. So been able to
How cool.
do some adventuring with him, do a little bit of adventuring
That's
with
neat.
him as well.
So now, you've grown up to be a very, I would say, developed athlete. Now, because of your sensory deficit and your visual sensory deficit, did you notice that you have developed any, I would call superpowers in your other senses?
I mean, I did notice that you had decided to wear some deodorant today, so I'm just kidding.
I never wear deodorant, so I'm
Exactly.
just thinking probably.
I'm just kidding. No, I wouldn't say that I have like any superpowers. It's often people often say that like if you lose one sense, your other senses get heightened.
Like your auditory sense, or I don't know.
Look, I'm no daredevil. I'm not I can't. What I say is that I just have to pay attention. I have to pay attention.
I'll tell you, you
to
have
more.
a cryptic vision, how would I call it? A nice aura. Like your picture is a very, I don't know, it's a very cryptic picture. I don't know, you've never seen yourself, but I was like, you could be Daredevil. You could pass for Daredevil. I don't know if you've seen it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Maybe I think like I said, I just pay attention to my surroundings. Since I can't rely on my visual field, I have to use my hearing, my sense of smell, my sense of touch and taste to build that picture of the world around me. And look, if I could taste the fruity, unctuous notes of it, of any cava or fine wine or spirits or anything like that, I would. I'd probably be some. I wouldn't be doing the job that I have if I could sit and listen and hear an ant walking on a log. I mean, I'd be collecting money left and right from as a entertainer or
That's
something
right.
like that. But no, I just pay attention to the world around me, and so I wouldn't say that I have like supersonic senses or anything like that.
Okay, we'll put that to rest then.
So Kyle, following in the footsteps of your early mentor Eric, you moved on to summiting Kilimanjaro at the age of 15. 15 years old, yeah. And what I would like to know is, what is the most memorable experience from that?
Yeah. Well, tell me about it first, because I don't know
Like,
how
how'd you get there,
challenging
right?
that is. So
That's the
how
first
far up, what's the altitude? How, I don't know, What's the length to get there, the distance to get there? Just tell us about it first, and then you can tell us about how you get there.
Yeah, I mean, Kilimanjaro was a work in progress. I mean, so in when I was 14, I went to Peru as part of a.
So it's in Peru.
So Kilimanjaro is in Africa.
In Africa, okay.
Yeah,
right. I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so
Kilimanjaro is the tallest mountain in Africa.
Okay.
It's 19,340 feet or so.
Higher than Pikes Peak.
Yeah, by a lot, almost a mile.
It's almost a mile higher than Pikes Peak. I think it's just under 5,900 meters tall.
That's more.
Yeah, so it's up there. It's up there.
And then from base to the top, how far is that?
So most of the treks or the hikes start at about 6,000 feet up the mountain. So
you're starting in Manitou.
So it's like starting in Manitou. So it's no different than like starting in Manitou and going up to the summit of Pikes Peak.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you start start at the height of Manitou and you just.
And how long does it take an average person to get there?
We did it over the course of 6 days.
Okay.
So like it was a week long trip. I mean, but you have some people that do it in 4 days, some people that do it in 5, some people that do it in 6. Depending on so you have time to acclimate, rest. I mean, these days, like if I were to go make an attempt on it, I would probably I would try to do a sub 24-hour round trip of it.
Sub 24 hours,
which is a crazy thing to think about.
Yeah.
But like that's something that has floated around in my mind in the past. I'm pretty ambitious, so.
Okay, so now tell us about that
there's
trip.
tons of
At 15 years old, tell us about that trip.
Yeah, so I have to back up a little bit from that trip because it started off with a trip to Peru, South America. The year before, I was part of a group of blind and visually impaired teenagers, and we partnered up with a group of, some sighted teenagers, and we did it through an organization called No Barriers, which is an organization that Eric Weinmeier founded. And Eric put together this team of blind and sighted teenagers from across the U.S., and we went and we did a trek from Cusco, Peru to Machu Picchu. It was on a trail called the Ancascocha Trail, or the more commonly known as the Super Inca Trail. And by the time we finished up with that trip, a lot of us on that trip were just so close, tight-knit friends. We didn't want to stop adventuring together. So a few of us threw out the idea of like, hey, like, why don't we do this again next year? But let's go somewhere different. Let's go try and do Mount Kilimanjaro. And so that was what we decided to do. And No Barriers loved the idea of, hey, let's, we had this group of, this inaugural group of teenagers do this in, 2006 in Peru. Let's keep it going and bring them to Kilimanjaro in 2007. So we did that. And, at the time I was, like I said, 15 years old, and, Kilimanjaro, I would say that like from a technicality and from an ease standpoint, I would say it's probably a little easier than Pikes Peak.
No way.
I definitely,
You've done Pikes Peak, right?
Oh yeah. I've done Pikes Peak both on from both the bar trail side and the crags side. The crag side is much tougher from a technical standpoint. But the thing that made Kilimanjaro hard is that it's long. I think it was. I think that the route that we did was like probably it might have been a marathon long. But it's also climbing.
Is that one way? A marathon
feet.
One way?
Yeah, a marathon one way. So it's probably like 50 miles round trip.
So the elevation gain.
But the elevation gain is, gain, you're gaining 13, 14, 15,000 feet. And I was also a teenager, so it's a little.
It's easier when you're young. Right?
It's easier when you're young. It's easier when you're like, I think about it now. I'm like, ooh, man, that is a lot. Like, am I crazy to think that, to try and eventually run that one day. But yeah, we would like the first day we climbed from the from the trailhead up to a pretty established camp, and spent the night, and then spent the next day slowly working our way up to the next camp, and spent another night, and then actually spent a day kind of hiking around and acclimatizing to 12,000 feet, and then the next day we made our way up to just over 15,000 feet to our high camp, and spent another day acclimatizing before summit night. Get up at 11 p.m. to start climbing by midnight, and you climb. I think we ascended like 4,500 feet to get up to the summit, and summited right around sunrise, so like right around like 6:30, 7 a.m. In the morning. So it was really cool to be standing on top of Kilimanjaro with the sun rising up over the.
That sounds amazing. Like from a movie.
It was pretty cool, and and of course my two of my buddies, we were, of course, like the natural thing you have to do is when you get to the summit of a mountain, like, well, you got nature's calling, so we had to pop over to the side and pee over the edge into the volcanic crater. So yeah, we conquered the mountain all right.
Man, this is
all that at the age of 15.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking.
Just all that at the age of 15. So it was fun.
Like, how do you top that as a 15-year-old? What was the next big adventure you did after that, getting into your college years?
I'm guessing the Paralympics, right?
The Paralympics were still a ways away.
That was actually after college.
Yeah,
wasn't
it was quite a bit. It was quite a bit after college. So no, immediately after Kilimanjaro, I was still in love with the outdoors and mountaineering and adventuring, and so I partnered up with just some buddies from that group that I went to Peru and Kilimanjaro with, and we did some climbing out here in Colorado. We did some
from Florida.
Yeah, from Florida. We were all. There was a guy from Texas. There was a guy from Wisconsin. There was a couple of guys
all over the country.
All over the country, and we would just meet up in like Oregon or Washington, and we would do some climbing or stuff along those lines. And
so are you all blind or different disabilities?
I'm totally blind, and one of my other buddies was he had a severe visual impairment, but then the other guys that we were climbing with were they had full use of their vision and sight, and so but yeah, we climbed around the country for a few years, and we had aspirations of eventually going back out to getting back out internationally, maybe going and doing some stuff in South America, or maybe doing some stuff in Europe. But we college and life kind of got in the way, and then we realized that to travel you kind of have to have money, and
that's right.
We didn't really have that, so but yeah, so I wound up going to college. I went to the University of Central Florida in Orlando, and worked my way through college, graduated in 3 years, and took one summer to come out here and work in an outdoor adventure camp for kids in Florissant called Sanborn. Loved my time out there, and that was the first time I actually got to spend like a good summer, like a whole summer in Colorado. And once I spent the whole summer in Colorado, I was like, there's nowhere else I want to live.
Yeah.
Right.
Can't pass it up at that point.
I mean, I had come out here skiing growing up. Instead of doing Christmas presents under the trees, my parents did a ski trip for my sisters and me. They said they'd rather us make memories than open presents. So we did that growing up, and so I'd done some winters in Colorado, but the old saying is you come for the winter, stay for the summer. So fell in love with Colorado summers, and but yeah,
So
eventually.
what is for you? I know that again. I'm being from your perspective. I want to see or understand what makes Colorado unique to you. on what, because you cannot see the mountain, because you cannot, what makes it different? What is the thing that set it apart?
For me, it's just the access to adventure. I mean, like, and look, you don't need to see to step out and just like take that deep breath of that crisp, clear mountain air.
That's right.
Like, I mean, hey, like we're here at Manitou, and just wake up at 4, 5, 6 in the morning. Stick your head out the window and just take that nice. That nice big deep breath of mountain air. Like there's nothing like it.
You hear the birds and
you hear the birds,
the aspen leaves,
the aspen leaves. It's so amazing, and like I love it. I love it here in Colorado. I've been in Colorado Springs now for 7 or 8 years, and I
did you
love
have
it.
family here when you came here, or?
No. So eventually my because my whole family, we all loved Colorado so much, we all did eventually just move here.
You did?
Yeah. So my parents actually moved to Carbondale, Colorado in 2014.
Yep.
A couple of my sisters followed in 2000. Well, my youngest sister obviously came with them because she was still in school at the time. And then my younger sister Kelsey moved out here as soon as she graduated college, and then I came out here, and I went out to Carbondale in 2016. We can get to that in a minute, and then my older sister and her family came out to Colorado as well. So we're all now Colorado based, and I don't see any of us leaving anytime soon.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit more about the Paralympics.
Oh man,
How did you get into that?
because that's what brought you to Colorado Springs, isn't it?
Yeah, so getting into the Paralympic Games is what brought me to Colorado Springs. But not to make the long story even longer, but I kind of have to back up to immediately after I graduated from college, because I graduated from college in 2013, and I just thought I was hot stuff. I mean, you heard me talking about Kilimanjaro, Peru, and all this climbing and stuff that I had done growing up. I had been a wrestler in high school, and for a couple of years in college, and I had kind of gotten I had gotten a very big head, and I thought I was just the hottest thing on the planet. And so I went into the workforce as a 21-year-old thinking that I would apply for every job CEO and above.
No kidding. Tell me which one did you apply for?
I was looking for everything. I was looking for anything, listed CEO or above. I mean,
you never said. What did you do in college? What did you learn?
So I was a communication major.
Okay.
But I also, I studied communication. I also studied a little bit of history. And the thought was to go into business, or potentially even go into being a teacher at one point. I thought of, I tried thinking of everything that I could possibly do, but yeah, I went into the workforce just thinking that and it was that era of, hey, like, you can be young and entrepreneurial, and you can do anything you set your mind to. You don't need a fancy college degree if you really don't want it to be successful. And I maybe took that a little bit too much to heart. Mm-hmm. And I went into a lot of job interviews very arrogant, and I was applying for everything. I was applying for things that were way outside of what I should have been applying for. And then I also basically I started climbing my way down the corporate ladder, and I just started applying for jobs, anything that I could find. And eventually I looked up, and it was a year since I had graduated from college, and I had started getting depressed. I I had always enjoyed alcohol, but it was starting to become a crutch. I was drinking a lot, and I was beginning to be reliant on it. It was affecting my mood, my outlook on life. That positive thing that I had, that positive attitude that I had growing up. It became a very negative outlook on life. Not gonna deny. There probably was a little bit of discrimination in some of the job interviews that I did. People thinking that, oh, he's blind, he can't do this job, and all of it just kind of started to wear on me. And a year into this job search and all that, I was just I think I had gained 30 or 40 pounds since I had graduated from college. I was very unhealthy, both in my mental state and my physical body. And I picked up this book and read about this crazy sport of ultra running. And I in particular, I heard about this race called the Leadville Trail 100, and it was like a 100-mile run that you had to do in under 30 hours through the mountains of Colorado. And I was like, I love Colorado. That race sounds like a terrible idea. I want to do that.
That's perfect.
And so, at the time I'm living in Orlando, Florida, and I promise we're getting to the Paralympic Games here.
That's right.
So at the time I'm living in Orlando, Florida, there's not really a whole lot of trail and mountain running opportunities in Orlando, Florida. And I'm at the time I'm like over 200 pounds. I'm a big slob. But I reached out to the online endurance community, and I find someone that's crazy enough. He's never met a blind guy. He's never guided a blind person, anything like that. But he's like, yeah, sure, I'll run with you. Let's see what we can do. And so I meet up with him in at a little park in downtown Orlando, and we go for a run. I think we make it like 400 meters, and he runs me into a pole.
Oh no!
So I'm curious.
But yeah.
So how do you do online? Just educate me quickly.
Yeah.
I don't have to spend time on it.
Is it a screen reader? Or?
A screen or a auditory?
Yeah. So every so I use a screen reading software on either my iPhone or a Mac called VoiceOver, and you can actually turn it on any iPhone or any Mac, and it basically takes the screen and it speaks everything out on the screen to you, and I can use keystrokes and I can use gestures on my phone screen to to find my way around the internet or a Word document or my email or text messages or anything like that. But yeah, so my buddy, wound up becoming my buddy Mike, and I.
This is the guy who ran you into the pole.
Yeah, ran me into the pole.
So it wasn't a relationship ender.
It did not end the relationship. He's still a really good buddy. He's one of my best friends.
That's great.
But I think after like the first or second run we did together, I was like, man, this running thing really sucks. And he said, yeah, it really does. You know what you should do instead? You should do triathlon. And I said, cool. What's that? And so that was how I heard about the sport of triathlon. Mike was a triathlete, and so he taught me everything he knew about the sport of triathlon.
So do you have to have a buddy, like somebody with you to do the triathlon?
Yeah. So in triathlon, I have to have a guide for the whole race, swimming, biking, and running. And so Mike and I, we didn't really know how a blind person could do triathlon, but we researched and we watched some random YouTube videos. We dug up things on online, and we reached out to people. We asked questions, and but we just kind of made it up as we went along, figured it out, and we did a bunch of triathlons together. But over the course of 2015 and 2016, at that point, eventually, I did actually wind up finding a job, and so I was working, and actually had was able to have some income and.
What were you doing, if you don't mind?
Yeah, what was
I actually started. I was working for a nonprofit organization called Lighthouse Central Florida. I was doing government relations and advocacy work for them, in addition to some other things. Like when you work at a nonprofit, you wear a ton of hats. But then through my work with Lighthouse, I got introduced to other sectors of the community, and I actually got hired away to work for a small branch of the Department of the Navy called the Naval Air Warfare Center Training Systems Division. And so basically what we did was I worked on the corporate operations side of the business, but the organization itself, they specialized in training and simulation. So building like flight simulators, tank simulators, ship simulators, any type of simulation, or building some type of training manual. That's what they focused on. But I pushed a lot of paper around, so I was your classic government paper pusher. Worked with some really great people. Worked with did a whole lot of really cool things, but wasn't the job, wasn't the career that I wanted for the rest of my life. So at that point, my parents had moved to Colorado. I called them up and said, "Hey, I need a big change in my life. I'm ready to move. Can I rent a room from you guys?" And they said, "Sure, come on out." So I moved to Carbondale at the end of 2016, and and then started kind of the job and employment search all over again. And it took me a while, and but now that I was into triathlon and into running and all that kind of stuff, I had ample time on my hands to swim, bike, and run and train. And turns out that when you put a lot of effort and time and focus into those things, you kind of sort of get good at it.
Yeah, and so you got to compete, literally going to Paris and Tokyo.
Yeah, and it was a bit of a journey to get there, but yeah, I did a couple of Ironman triathlons on my way to it, and
and on the Ironmans, you were the first blind person to complete an Ironman triathlon, correct?
Not the first person, not the first blind person to complete an Ironman, but I was the first totally blind person to do an Ironman in under 11 hours.
In under 11 hours. Okay,
yeah,
that was.
So it is in the sport of triathlon, they definitely we definitely like to separate ourselves, and a sub 11 hour Ironman is a pretty big deal.
I'm scared of doing it.
Yeah. So
the swimming is my scariest part.
Yeah,
right, that's got to be the
definitely
hardest thing, being completely blind, being in open water swimming.
Open water.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the open water, I swim next to my guide. So we have a bungee cord that wraps around my upper thigh and his upper thigh, and we swim side by side. And he tapped my shoulder to let me know which direction to turn.
So that keeps you from drifting off course.
For the most part. I mean, there's always going to be some like drifting back and forth and some incidental contact and stuff like that. But yeah, over the course of from 2016 through 2018, I was really into Ironman triathlon. I was really into long distance stuff. And then in 2018, I got connected with USA Triathlon and their talent identification pipeline, and they came knocking on my door and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about this thing called the Paralympic Games?" And I said, "What the heck is that?" And they said, "Oh, it's like where the most elite athletes compete in the world." And I said, "Cool, it sounds like a fun adventure. I'm interested." And so they invited me to some training camps, and then invited me to apply to live at the Olympic and Paralympic Training Center. I did, and was accepted into that program, and so moved here to Colorado Springs at the beginning of 2019 to live at the training center, and then I wound up living at the training center for 6 or 7 years, all the way up through the end of 2024. Went to Tokyo, went to Paris for the Paralympic game, for both for 2 Paralympic games, and
any medals?
No medals. I'm really good at I was really good at the racing and the training outside of the Paralympic Games. I won a handful of races in my international racing career, but then showed up on the day in Tokyo and at my first Paralympic Games, and I was a medal favorite, but fell just short of the podium. Got fifth. I was about 40 seconds
Pretty good.
About 40 seconds off of the podium, and then redoubled my effort. Had a really outstanding 2022 racing season. Climbed my way all the way up to being at least ranked #1 in the world for a short stint. But then had a shoulder surgery at the beginning of 2023, and was able to come back from that, and climbed my way up to being very consistently in the top 5-6 in the world.
Incredible.
Going into Paris, and had a really was in probably the best shape of my life going into the Paris Paralympic Games, and was probably poised, very confident that I would get a medal.
Paris?
Paris was 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah, so it was actually funny. I was chatting with a colleague today. It was actually 2 years ago today. We were in Paris, not racing yet, but we had just gotten to Paris. We were staging. We were getting into our accommodations at the village and all that. So it's wild to think it was 2 years ago.
What did it feel like? What did it feel like competing like 2 years ago today and meeting all the other athletes around the world?
I mean, it's the whole point of the Olympic and Paralympic Games is to unite the world through sport. And like I had some rivalries with some athletes across the world, but the really cool thing about sport and elite sport is that you can have those crazy rivalries, but it really, really brings you pretty close together. And so like I viewed it as an opportunity to I got to hang out with some really badass people.
Yeah.
We all, you're in the dining hall eating with athletes from different countries. Everyone is in like this cool thing of sport brings us all together. And it was really neat and really, really cool. And I loved my time, competing as an elite athlete, and getting to go to 2 Paralympic Games.
So you went from that to now looking at ultra running, right?
Yep.
And you're eyeing after that. I'm guessing you were eyeing before that the Leadville 100.
Yeah.
Which is one of the races I said it could be one of my bucket lists. I said could be because I'm still dreading it.
It's on a lot of people's bucket lists.
It's on a lot of people's bucket lists. But yeah, like I said earlier, Leadville was the race that I read about, and I was like,
and you just did it, I heard last week.
Well, I made it halfway last week.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I retired after Paris. I didn't have the race that I wanted in Paris. My guide actually got sick the morning of the race, and he wasn't able to race, and so I had to race with my backup guide, who was still an amazing athlete. We had the best race we possibly could, but it wasn't quite enough. And at that point, I was ready to move on from competing as an elite triathlete, and so trail running and mountain running had always kind of been in the back of my mind. And so last year, 2025, I took on the Pikes Peak Ascent for the first time. Did that, started really getting into doing the incline, and just really wanted to kind of put this puzzle of trail running together with the goal of, hey, like, Leadville was the thing that inspired me to get off the couch and start running, and I want to try and do that. And so I submitted for the lottery last year, and got into it for this year, and trained my butt off, and and last weekend showed up ready, in great shape, ready to run, and I was very confident that I would finish, and I could finish within all of the cutoffs. And
did you do any training through Hope Pass?
And that was the big mistake that I made, is that I did not go up to Leadville at all this summer to do Hope Pass,
to
and
learn the course,
to really dial in the course. And look, this summer it was it would have been tough because the willow fires and all that going on up there, and we actually didn't know what the final course was going to be, or even if Leadville was going to happen, literally until a couple of weeks ago, just because of all the fires that were going on up there. And so, but yeah, I went up this past weekend, had an incredible crew of guides and people ready to help me get from the start line to the finish line. And I ran an incredibly awesome first marathon. Ran well within my abilities. I actually think I got into Outward Bound, which is roughly about the first marathon. I think I got in 75 minutes ahead of what we had projected I was going to do. So well within cutoff times. And then the next 14 miles, they were a little toasty, a little hot. It got pretty hot during the course of the day, but still made it into Twin Lakes at within the cutoff times. I was making decent time, and actually made up some time, and actually clawed back a little bit of time on my way up toward up the front side of Hope Pass, and I was climbing really well, and I made it to the top of Hope Pass still with close to 2 hours to probably close to 2 hours to spare before the Winfield cutoff. And then that backside of Hope Pass though really did me in. It was going down that backside of Hope Pass into Winfield was steep, technical, rocky, and it was very demanding on me, both physically and mentally. But by the time I got down off of the technical bits of Hope Pass, I was now running a little bit behind behind schedule, and so I ran as hard as I possibly could, but I missed the Winfield cutoff by just under 6 minutes, and so it was a tough. My first ever DNF in a race, but had
DNF. I don't know that term.
Did not finish.
Oh, okay.
or did nothing fatal, depending on your perspective.
So Kyle,
I like that. Did nothing fatal.
Can you describe for us? You say it's rocky and technical. You're going downhill at Hope Pass. What is it like for you with a guide? Like, can you put us in that moment of how you navigate down this technical?
Because uphill is like, sometimes
Uphill
I feel it's like 70 degrees going up, but it's not really.
To me, uphill makes more sense. It seems easier, clearly.
But for him, I
going
think
downhill though,
downhill,
having no vision.
Exactly.
Like how does that work? Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, well, I mean, the next time you're out on the incline, just close your eyes and try to go down
that's
the incline.
That's what I'm saying.
Or just go up to the top of drive up to the top of Pikes and head imagine like the golden steps at the top of Pikes, or combine the golden steps at the top of Pikes with the incline,
like
blindfolded and going down, and you got to move quickly, but if you take one wrong step, your feet can slide out from under you. You might take out your guide in front of you or behind you, and then there's also exposure to one side or the other.
Exactly.
So every step counts, and so like you can't think about the third or fourth step ahead. You have to only think about the step right in front of you.
That's right.
My guides are telling me like, all right, step down here, bring your foot over to the left, bring your foot over to the right, put your pole here over by my foot. They're using their poles to tap on rocks for me to try and avoid. They're also looking out for trees or branches that might be overhead that can whack me. All that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a lot to think about.
So this relationship with the guide is so incredibly important. You have to have so much trust. You're literally putting your life in their hands.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean it's a team effort. It's 100% a team effort. I've never considered a running accomplishment or a triathlon accomplishment my accomplishment, because it's I can't do it without somebody else there with me. And I think that's really cool and really unique about it. So, I've built an incredible network of guides and people that are willing to, tether themselves to me, or, to run with me and to adventure with me on, trails or roads or, anything along those lines. So it's pretty cool and special.
It is really special. It's incredibly impressive too to be able to communicate. Think about, Christelle, the pressure of being a guide and like how much you have to thoroughly communicate every aspect.
And the patience.
I am quite certain that there are definitely some times when my guides are like, we just like, I wish we had a pair of scissors. We could just cut this tether and like run away from this guy. And like, I have my buddy who guided me for Ironman Arizona back in 2018. He makes that joke all the time. He's always like, but you know what? He tells all of my guys, he's like, just carry a pair of scissors with you, cut the cord and leave him.
But I always think that we are like innately sometimes bad, but hearing this also can convince anyone that humans are very good, right? Like there are some good people out there.
There are a lot of good, absolutely.
To do that and to have the patience and the dedication and not to cut untether you and run away. Call me naive, but I think there are more good people out there than bad. That's and what I think look, and Leadville is a prime example. Like I think out of the hundreds and hundreds of people that were out there that we passed or came across and that we're doing the race with, I can only think of one person that had a bit of an attitude toward me and my guides, because I mean, granted, she was also probably like 50, she's also like 55, almost 60 miles into her race, but my guide is looking down, trying to make sure that my feet are placed right, and and she's like, keep your eyes up. She's probably a little cranky, and but everybody else is just like, the trail and ultra running community is just so supportive. Like, hey, keep it up. You're rocking it. You're doing awesome. Andy Glaze passed me going uphill. As I was coming down the backside of Hope Pass, he's going up the backside, and he just looks and he's like, "You guys are freaking crazy doing this blind." Like, I'm telling you, I had a few friends who Mike introduced me to Hope Pass, and he was training with his wife. His wife was doing the Leadville 100, and I went to train just to see how the trail was. Man, these guys were literally going like, I feel it was 60 degrees to 70 degrees up.
It was steep.
And it's very steep. And that kind of put a fear of God in me, actually. And say, okay, maybe I don't want to do this. And so I've never really went back there. Unfortunately, my friend Mike died. Actually, he went 2 weekends before that to train with his wife, preparing her to, for the race, and the next weekend he went to bed and never woke up. And he found out he had a heart disease. And so you never know. Man, these guys were literally climbing uphill and running. Not
so
talking
maybe
about.
He pushed his body just a little too hard.
This was there all along, they say, and he had a heart, some valve that was deteriorating over time.
That's hard.
Yeah, but you went from that, and also you have done the Manitou Incline many times, and you even had a record time, like 38. Is not a joke.
Yeah, it's pretty
Most
quick,
people don't do 38 on the incline.
Let alone being blind.
So now let's go back a little bit. How did you hear about the incline, and what made you decide to do the incline?
Well, I mean, when I moved to Colorado Springs, moved to the training center in 2019, and I heard people talking about this famous Manitou incline, and it's just a big staircase. It's like 2,500 or 2,700 steps, and just like, it's just a staircase. What's so special about it? Like, I don't get it. And then I finally got to do it, near the end of 2019. I think it was the first time I did it, and I was like, oh boy, this thing ain't no joke.
Did you had a guide?
Yep, I had a guide, and did it, and I was like, man, that thing was hard. But I don't think I didn't do it again until like a year later. And at that time, I think that was the first time I went under 40 minutes, was my second or third time up it.
And are you hiking with trekking poles, and the guide is like tethered and giving you verbal instruction?
So I'm tethered to my guide. They're usually on my right, and then I use 2 trekking poles on the incline. I use one to kind of, I kind of put it right in front of my, one of my feet, and I hit each step, and then I use the second pole for balance.
And do you have Hugh with you, or?
No. Hugh, my guide dog, he's under the table here. He's a terrible hiker. He likes hiking, but the incline that might be a bit much for him. That might be a bit much for him.
So now, how do you go back down? Do you take the trail down, or do you go back down the stairs?
I typically take bar trail down. Okay. So just going down the incline, you're hitting 60, 65, 70% at times. That's pretty steep.
Yeah.
And plus, I don't like to, it's so crowded on there. Like, I don't want to risk running people over and all that kind of stuff.
There's holes in the stairs sometimes.
There's holes in the stairs.
Stairs are wobbly sometimes.
It's easier to go up than it is to go down for me. So I prefer to take the longer, the scenic route down bar trail. But going back to the fastest known time that I did, that was actually last year. I was training for the ascent, and I actually I had done a run up to bar camp the day before, so it's a Saturday. Like, I run up to bar camp and back down on Saturday, and then I messaged my buddy Brandon Stepanovich, that night, and I'm like, hey, I'm would you maybe want to do an early incline tomorrow? I just did the bar camp route, so it probably won't be very fast, but would love to just get out and do a big back-to-back elevation day. And he was like, yeah, sure, like meet me at the base at 4:30 whenever we decided to do it. And so I show up at I show up here on Ruxton, and Brandon and I just start heading up the stairs, and I was not intending to go fast. I just got into a rhythm, and
you have to go fast if you're with Brandon, though, right?
You kind of do have to go fast if you're with Brandon. I mean, the man's a legend here, so he doesn't really allow you to go slow.
Yeah. Yep.
He's pretty much like, keep up. No, I'm kidding. He'll go as slow as you want him to, but he'll go the pace you want him to go. But yeah, so we just started our way up, and we're having a great conversation. And then I think he looked down at his watch, and he's like, hey, we're halfway up, and it's only been like 18 minutes or something like that. I'm like, oh snap, I can probably I might be able to break 39 minutes today. And so pushed myself. Let's go. So pushed myself a bit from there once we got to the top. And
was 39 minutes the previous record?
I have no idea what the record was before that, but
that was just your personal.
But like,
record?
my personal record had been like just under 40 or something like that.
So that was that number.
So like, I was just going for my own personal, my own personal best time. And I mean, I wasn't intending to go for my own personal best time, but it wound up being my best time up the incline. And then I went and did the ascent like 2 weeks later, and then I think Brandon and I were out on a run, and he was like, hey, I was looking at all the fastest known times, and he's like, I don't think a blind person or a para athlete has ever gone faster than you on the incline. We should we should submit that on fastestknowntime.com. And I was like, all right, let's do it. So submitted it, and so fastest known time because it's the only one on the website.
What a great friend to
so
have
so
to push
would love to would love to see that absolutely obliterated by somebody else. But I definitely. I plan to go and lower that time just for my own personal.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you have a personal goal to get under? I think you could probably do like 35, right?
I definitely think I could get under 35. I mean, I think it'd be really cool.
Have you met Crazy Bob?
I actually have not met Crazy Bob. I've just heard about him.
You might want to meet Crazy Bob.
Yeah.
So if you know Superman, you need to know Crazy Bob.
Fair enough. I mean, who doesn't know Superman at this point, right? So.
Yeah, these guys could get you to under 35.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, I think just a little bit of training on the incline, and because the incline is all about pace and rhythm.
That's right.
At a certain point, yeah, you absolutely need to be fit. Like you absolutely need to be fit if you want to try and go fast on the incline. But I'd love, next milestone is definitely getting under 35, and then keep put the eyes on sub 30, and then we'll see from there.
So now, have you heard of these challenges we have around here on the incline? The 500 club, the 1,000 club,
Ultra.
Oh,
Incline.
yeah.
ultra.
Oh yeah, I've heard about
any of
them.
those you tempting? You're gonna attempt pretty soon, or
the
inclinathon.
Inclinathon might be a little that might be a little much for me, just because since I don't like to go down the stairs.
That's right.
That might be a bit much. But the 500 in a year, that's intriguing. I'm intrigued. Maybe start with like 365 in a year.
Yeah. Find somebody who's doing the 500. Maybe say, okay, let's do it together.
Put it up with them.
That's right.
So
Gary could be his buddy.
Yeah.
Right.
So like maybe something along those lines. But I've never done a double. I've never done 2 ascents of the incline in a single day.
Have you ever done a double?
I've never done a double, so that I think maybe start with. I think maybe do a double before I start to tackle 500 in a year. That might be smart.
That's right.
But yeah, no, I mean, but I love. I mean, the incline is awesome. I love it. I love this mountain of Pikes Peak. Haven't quite committed yet. I'm still letting my toes heal up from Leadville, but might be taking on the marathon here, the Pikes Peak Marathon here in a few weeks.
Oh,
so
look at it.
we'll
That's
see.
exciting.
Yeah, exciting.
So we'll see.
We'll be
Do you have a
cheering you on
guide
if
yet?
you're here.
That's the thing that's holding me up. I need to find the guides. So
Well, you know what?
need to
We've
find a
never-
couple of crazy people.
We've never gone over an hour. I just noticed we went over an
Oh,
hour.
yeah.
This is been so fun. We can keep going.
Yeah. Well, let's do 2 last questions.
Yeah.
I'll let Christelle do the closing question. My last question will be, you've accomplished some amazing things in your life, things that most people dream of doing.
Yep.
What's next for you on your list?
Man, what's next? There are so many. I mean, my bucket list is so long and so deep that it'd be hard to pick one. I mean, on the immediate horizon, in the next couple of weeks, I'd love to either do a like I said, I haven't decided if I'm going for the ascent or the marathon yet. Either do a super fast ascent or try to be the first totally blind person to finish the marathon in under the 10-hour cutoff on Pikes Peak. But the next big challenge is, hey, finish Leadville. So that next year is
Still.
putting
Close
all
that chapter.
gotta close that chapter.
race
Gotta
that
finish
started
that
it
off.
all, right?
The race that started it all. Kilimanjaro round trip in under 24 hours is on
Amazing.
the potential. But then the other big one that that my coach actually stuck in the back of my mind a while back was potentially taking a crack at Nolan's 14. So we'll see. That would be a multi-year project because that one would take a lot of scouting and lots of time up in the Salatch Range. So, but just the next adventure is to be determined.
To be determined. Well, one last question for you. You're healthy. You're pretty young. We didn't talk about health and wellness, but we always, I'm a nurse by trade.
Yeah.
And I love healthcare. and mostly preventive healthcare. So you doing all these. Anything special that you've done to prepare, or anything special that, any damage that you've caused to your body, you think? And just quickly tell us how you've overcome any body challenges you've had to overcome, physical challenges.
I mean, at the end of the day,
besides being blind.
Besides being blind, health and nutrition. I think the number one thing is you gotta love what you do. I think love and joy is by far the best medicine. But I do my best to eat fairly healthily. I'm not quite as dialed as I was when I was training for the Paralympic Games. I mean, when every single aspect of my life was dedicated to athletic performance. But I very much believe in keeping it stupid simple, doing the simple things really, really well, and then doing those simple things a little bit better. So, eating your fruits and veggies, eating, making sure that you get outside and breathe the fresh air. You're moving outside. I think doing something consistently over a long period of time is more healthy than anything. And if we, just choosing to have those good habits, and I have
to ask you, Kyle, have you heard of Neuralink?
I don't think so.
It's in Elon Musk's company, and they have developed a device that goes into the brain somehow that is able to bypass certain damage, neurological damage that people have, and to bring back faculties that people have lost. And I think now they're having people, with their thought play games without even touching the computer screen. So you just kind of thinking, and so the goal of the company, according to Elon Musk, is to be able to bring remedy to blindness, paralysis, those kind of deficits. So I'm just curious, if you've never heard of it, maybe just, maybe next time we talk, tell us about it to see how that could, how
we could have a very long conversation around all that. I mean, I don't know if I want to be a cyborg quite yet, but
but there's some cool stuff, especially with AI now that are coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, science. I'm all for pushing science forward, and it's a really cool thing.
But you've never looked into these kind of.
Not super well. I will say I will be first. I'll be one of the first in line for for the cyber cab whenever that does come out.
That's right. Me too. I want to check it out. Texas. Let's go to Texas. Austin.
Yeah. So I'm definitely in line for that when it's available for me to buy.
That's right.
I would love to be able to have my own self-driving car that drives me around.
Yep.
It'd save me a lot on Ubers.
That's right.
Well, Kyle, one more thing. If there's somebody listening right now and they today are facing limitations, but they're telling themselves they can't do it and it's too hard, what would you tell them about what is possible in life after what you've gone through?
Yeah. And I promise I don't have any other questions.
No, it's all good. I mean, the reality is, most people fail to achieve their desired level of success because they don't believe it's possible. And you have to believe that you can. You've got to have that belief in yourself. You've got to put the people around you that will help push and pull you to success. So, but it all starts with believing that you can, and turn that impossible into I'm possible.
Awesome. Well, this was a great conversation with Kyle Kuhn. Actually, we've gone over for the first time, and I kept thinking I need to ask one more questions,
I
but
feel
I'm
like
gonna
we could do it all
restrict.
over again. Right? I have more questions than when we
I
started.
know, but this is great. I think you are a very inspiring person, Kyle. As I told you, you also have a cryptic, very nice daredevil look. So if you don't know that, you do.
Oh, thank you.
And then so
Thank you.
we are very happy that we had you on the podcast. And I don't think I have to say anything else. I'm going to ruin it if I say anything else. So to the next time, to the next podcast, hopefully we can find somebody who can beat that, that,
I'm sure you can.
Well, we'll see about that.
Yeah, well, we're very grateful for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate your
thank you,
stories.
guys.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Appreciate it.
All right. Man, thank you. This is the first time we went over like an hour and a half, almost 15 minutes.
Sorry about that.
No, yeah, it's okay.
I should have told you.
I could have asked you more questions.